Welcome to the 2016 APB World Bodyboarding Tour. Today's show features highlights from the first two events, the Mike Stewart Pipeline Invitational and the Spark Green Tahiti Challenge held at the world-famous Teahupo'o. But the season starts appropriately in Hawaii.
The idea of the invitational format was to invite the world's best free surfers to compete against the world's best tour competitors and give everyone an opportunity to kind of get together as a collective. And when that happens, usually there's a great synergy that occurs and it raises the bar. So that was the hope, and I think that's what we accomplished. The first time I paddled out to pipe was basically the hook. It was so much hollower than anything I had ever ridden before, and it just was like a whole nother realm of reality. It was just such a new frontier for me that I ended up just committing myself to it, to learn everything about it, to surf as much as I could, and I just had a feeling, or knew, that it was pretty much going to be the benchmark in wave riding, which it has been.
A hunk of lava reef that sits off Oahu's north shore, Pipeline is universally regarded as the most perfect wave in the world. But perfection doesn't equate to accessibility, and the wave's other title is less celebrated, the most deadly. It has taken lives and maimed bodies. But the hardest part about the wave is possibly just making it to the takeoff point. The break harbors a strong hierarchy, ceaseless crowds, and only breaks during the winter season. The most popular activity at Pipeline in the summer is snorkeling. There was no shortage of swell on the first day of the 2016 Mike Stewart Invitational, and the competitors thrived in the perfect pipe conditions. Garth MacGregor is an old-school bodyboarder from Newcastle on Australia's east coast. He was raised on localized rock slabs, and heavy pipelines suited his return to the competitive scene perfectly. He muscled through some heavy lefts on the opening morning to secure an early heat win and progression to the next round. Brett Linneman is another from bodyboarding's old guard. He's built a cult reputation for living out of the spotlight and decided on chasing solo sessions at remote reefs over crowded breaks in front of the cameras. Ryan Sewell showed his versatility hunting barrels and launching an invert off pipe's heaviest section. The offshore trade winds continued to huff throughout the day, and big numbers were landed on the predominantly left-hand barrels. A regular inclusion in the event is one of the world's top stand-up surfers, Jamie O'Brien. He grew up at Pipeline and has demonstrated an ability to ride any type of craft at the famous break. Australian LACHLAN CRAMSIE began his campaign with the second highest heat total of the day. He drew himself into late drops, picked the right lines to collect 14.66 points and a comfortable victory. Returning to the APB World Tour after a long hiatus, Dave Winchester also posted an impressive performance to earn a combined 13.66 points. His high score, an 8.3, came from a fearless backdoor invert. West Australian Josh Garner launched one of the most explosive aerials of the day when he found himself faced with a perfect backdoor wedge. But the day belonged to 16-year-old Puerto Rican ABNER, who stunned the crowd with a deep tube ride through Pipeline for the day's highest wave score of a 9.33. The Mike Stewart Pipeline Invitational brings a lot of underground Hawaiians into the competitive spotlight. Bodyboarding in Hawaii thrives on a local level, where wave riding respect is based on the size of the ocean that someone will tackle. The proud tradition started by Mike Stewart is continued through guys like Sammy Morantino, David Phillips, and Trevor Cam. Pipeline is designated as two separate waves. Only the left side of the peak is actually called Pipeline, while the right is known as Backdoor. The right can produce longer barrels than pipe, but is considered more treacherous than the left. The North Shore in winter attracts every aspect of the surfing world. The pros, the aspiring pros, the journalists, the team managers, the groupies, and the hordes of surf fans who come to see the greatest show on water. If possible, Day 2 saw an improvement on the previous day's perfect conditions. It also brought the top-seeded surfers into the competition, as well as some of the legends of the sport. Kaino McGee is a North Shore heavyweight with a permanent place in the pipe lineup. He showed that experience by threading solid barrels. Australian George Humphreys put a new twist on an old move with a roll high above the backdoor lip. Some of the sport's biggest names then entered the fray. Ryan Hardy is one of the most talented riders never to win a world title. The same can be said for Hawaiian Spencer Skipper, whose style made him one of the most natural riders in the world over a decade ago. Lachlan CRAMSIE repeated his first day heroics. The young Australian looked at home at a break that takes years to conquer. Another young Australian, Louis Finnegan, went even better as he steered through one of the biggest barrels of the day at backdoor before launching a suicidal roll off the end section. It was that level of commitment that drove him through round after round. Current world champion Jared Houston showed his class when the pressure built in the later rounds, guiding through a tricky backdoor barrel before launching a full-bodied invert off the end bowl. Ryan Hardy backed up his morning's performance with a perfectly chosen line through a pipeline barrel. That could also describe Jeff Hubbard's wave, as he came from deep behind the curtain to emerge after the pipeline spit. Some big names were squeezed out of the competition as the final places were contested. Multiple world champion Guilherme Temega looked solid but couldn't find the scores to progress. And Dave Winchester was also on form but would ultimately be watching the final from the sand. Lachlan CRAMSIE was unlucky not to be surfing for the pipeline title. He'd been one of the form surfers of the event and continued to link multiple maneuvers through his final heat. The world champion Jared Houston continued his form of the previous year as he booked a place in the final. In the 40-minute final, Pierre-Louis Costes made the first move as he landed one of his signature backflips at pipe and followed it up with a roll to post a 6.83. Louis Finnegan briefly shared the lead when he pulled into a solid pipe barrel and finished with an invert to post the same score. Hawaii, Jacob Romero stormed into a sizable lead through back-to-back waves. On his first wave, he boosted an invert over the dangerous backdoor ledge to earn an 8-3 from the judges. He then scooped straight into a long backdoor barrel to earn the same score and a commanding lead. Current world champion Jared Houston then posted the highest score of the heat so far. when he landed a backflip at backdoor that earned him an 8-6 and put him within striking distance of Romero. But then PLC began his assault on the pipe title with a huge backflip on a pipe bomb that scored a 9-4-3 and returned him to the lead. Not content to serve safe and protect his lead, PLC then launched a massive air reverse at backdoor that came close to perfect in the judges' eyes. That left the other three finalists comboed, meaning they all required 2 new scores to catch Costas. It was too much for the competitors, and PLC closed out an historic win.
Winning Pipeline was my #1 goal actually when I started bodyboarding. Before even thinking about winning a world title or anything else, I just wanted to go to Hawaii and eventually compete at pipe, and winning Pipeline would be like the ultimate goal. So I flew to Hawaii the first time when I was 13 or 14. And I saw the competition, I didn't enter, and I was blown away by the level, you know. When I was a bit shocked. I mean, I thought it was easier, to be honest, but that amped me so much. After that trip to Hawaii, I was 100% sure that I wanted to win this event. So I flew the year after to Hawaii, and I entered my first event, and I had a shocker. But I caught a really big wave that I think that I didn't realize how big it was at the time. I just saw the footage and I saw like, wow, that was big, and you know, it gave me a bit more confidence. Like, okay, I can ride big waves. Now I need to get my technique better. So, like I said, you know, winning pipe was my #1 goal, and I came really close in 2009, losing to Ryan Hardy, and that really hurt because you know, Pipeline is a very different event. It's probably the most prestigious event we have on the tour. And to be able to have your name on that list is something that every rider wants. And I tried really hard. I made I made 2 finals. And when I reached the final this year, you know, I was like, okay, I got another opportunity. It's so hard to have the opportunity. First, you need to have the event on tour, and second, you need to, you know, to make that final. So, you know, I tried my best. I had a slow start, and I was pretty lucky that the final, you know, was 35 minutes because I pretty much caught my best wave near the end, and you know, that's where I got my first 9-point ride, and I was so happy. I took the lead after that, and I had a bit of pressure off, so I was able to back it up with another 9-point ride, and that's it. And all of a sudden, it just happened. I mean, I felt so much, you know, excitement and happiness, and the way, like people say, you know, it's like a bit of a monkey out of the back, you know. Because it's something that I wanted so badly, and I was almost scared to never be able to achieve it, you know, because it's something that I really, really wanted. I even wanted more than the world title. So winning pipe and be able to say I won a pipe event is something that I'm gonna carry with me for the rest of my life. And you know, now just, you know, there's a lot of pressure off. If I can win another one, that's good. But you know, just very happy to at least did it once.
Like Pipeline, Teahupoo in Tahiti occupies rarefied air in the surfing world, a thing of beauty and of nightmares. Its perfect barrel is created by a vast amount of water being spun above an obscenely shallow rock ledge. Coming straight out of the deepest depths of the Pacific Ocean, it's what happens when huge ocean swells arrive unchecked on a perfectly shaped reef pass. Bodyboarding plays a huge role in the history of the wave, as the same man who lends his name to the pipeline event also pioneered this wave.
Teahupoo, the topography at Teahupoo is pretty unique in that it goes from dry, totally exposed reef to about a few hundred feet at least deep. So the topography of the reef is such that when a big wave comes in, it has this surging effect. And so it's the only wave, or one of the only waves that I've ever surfed where if a big set comes in, you're not paddling out to meet it, which you would in any other circumstance, in any other break. And it's something that, you know, as a wave rider, that's ingrained in you. When you see a big set, you want to try to get out to it. At Teahupoo, you turn around and you go the other way, which is, it's kind of unsettling because you're, you know, you don't know, you just have to take faith in what the wave's going to do and you know, hope for the best, you know, just you just got to dig in and go. But that's kind of the first thing that's the most striking. You know, obviously the way the wave looks is a result of the topography of the reef, which is pretty crazy, you know, how thick it gets, because after a certain size, it doesn't really get higher, you know, it doesn't move off of the reef so much, it just gets thicker. Look, I don't know, you know, who the first person was to surf it. There was, when I came across it, we were looking along the coast here. We were doing like an exploratory mission with some Zodiacs, or with the Zodiac, and we came across it in the evening, and yeah, it didn't look completely rideable at first. It seemed like it was maybe a little bit too walled and closed out, but I jumped in, tried, caught a wave, and then yeah, right after my first wave, I realized how good it was and how much fun it was. And it was like, you know, Chris Tenberg was with me at the time, and so we surfed it, and so that was kind of the start of it. And then I took Ben Severson the next day, and then he came back a little bit later with Hank, the photographer, and then it kind of got out there, and that was pretty much the beginning of its reputation.
In the first round, it wasn't the Teahupoo of nightmares, but it still delivered perfect barrels. Mike Stewart showed his experience, but couldn't pull off a round one win, while his protege, Tanner McDaniel, showed experience wasn't everything as he won his first round heat. Pierre-Louis Costas was his usual smooth and stylish self. He adjusted for a little barrel cover-up before he found enough speed to launch a backflip on a tiny section. Omri Laverne posted the highest heat total of the opening day as the ocean threw up a couple solid barrels, the second of which he raced for a big roll out the bowl. The second round opened with the local rider, Tahurai Henry, posting a win for the locals. The inconsistent swell made it difficult, as riders were forced to accept smaller barrels or risk being left empty-handed if they waited for the sets. Julian Merimont is Tahiti's most established rider and a regular on the World Tour. He easily won his round 2 heat. Mike Stewart put the disappointment of round 1 behind him as he weaved through some of the smaller barrels to record a second round victory. He won a close heat against the longtime rival and another multiple world champion, Guilherme Tamega from Brazil. In a heat for the ages, the judges decided Stewart's barrels were worth more than GT's lip assault. Toby Player is a renowned barrel rider, and he dominated his round 2 heat against Davis Blackwell. Jared Houston found some solid waves to book a place in the next round. He mixed barrels with lip launches to post a combined heat total of 16.33. Lachlan CRAMSIE found 2 long draining barrels to record a comfortable heat win. His second rolled down the reef to deliver an excellent score. Dave Hubbard found the waves to win his round 3 heat against local rider Dave Tura'u. But another Tahitian, Cedric Estal, continued his giant killing form as he downed perennial top 10 surfer Alex Udonga. Tahitian favorite Julian Merimont booked a place into round 4 with a solid display against Brahimidos of Morocco. Mike Stewart beat Garth MacGregor in the final heat of the day's competition. Stewart got off to a solid start with 2 deep barrels before MacGregor answered back with a perfect 10-point ride. When round 3 resumed the next day, Ben Player found a nice line into the lip for an invert and progressed into round 4. Player has made countless trips to Tahiti and described the surreal nature of riding the wave.
To ride Chopoo is totally surreal. I mean, when you're actually like out there when it's big and you come over a lump of swell and all you see is like the whole horizon is just black with this line of swell. Because what happens out there is it's so deep off the back of the reef that the swells are really stacked really close together. And what that creates is these really fast moving layers of swell. So when you get a set, it's just like running, I don't know how fast, it's like, it seems like 100 k's an hour. So it's just coming at you. It's so fast, and as soon as you see that big lump of water, you pretty much just got to turn and start paddling as quick as you can. And every single time you take off, you're like, oh man, I'm too late, I'm not going to make this. And like, you just got to, it's mind over matter, it's that kind of a place, and you just got to push down that ledge. And once you engage that rail and start bottom turning, and you just see this thing just standing up and just bowling around the reef, it's one of the most incredible views you could ever get riding a bodyboard. It's like the biggest barrel you'll ever get in your entire life, for sure, hands down.
Pierre-Louis Costas produced the full bag in his heat. He rolled through a solid section before driving through a deep ledging barrel and then produced a trademark backflip. Toby Player's run in the event finished in round 3, while Jared Houston's in and out was enough to secure his progress to round 4. Chile's Joshua Toledo had a blast in his round 3 heat victory, throwing shakas to the channel as he exited the barrel. A looping roll wasn't enough for LACHLAN CRAMSIE to progress. The Tahitian wildcards continue to prosper at the hands of the World Tour's elite. Jeff Hubbard reverted to his aerial game to guarantee his progress to the next round. In the first heat of round 4, Dave Hubbard kept his rail in the water to successfully navigate a pair of clean barrels and move into the finals. In an all-out Tahitian heat, local favorite Julian Merimont was defeated by the wildcard Cedric Estel. In the standout heat of the round, Ben Player and Mike Stewart traded deep barrels. But it was the more experienced Stewart who was given the nod by the judges and moved into the quarterfinals. Another upset followed in the next round when former world champion Pierre-Louis Costas was bundled out of the event by young Hawaiian Tanner McDaniel, who expertly threaded barrels and added finishing moves to beat his more fancied rival. Jared Houston drove through a solid drainer and then locked in a backup barrel to win a lopsided heat. Alan Munoz was soundly beaten by Jared Houston, who executed a critical backflip to seal progress. While the last semi-final berth was taken by Jeff Hubbard, he narrowly beat Angelo Ferreira in a tight heat. Semi-final number 1 was a tight scrap, with Mike Stewart just falling short on a score that ultimately gave Cedric Estel his first final. The final score was a 12.6 to Stewart's 12.56. In the second semi, Jared Houston and Jeff Hubbard exchanged moves and the heat lead several times, but it was the 3 times world champ Hubbard who managed to take down the current world champ Houston to reach the final. In the final, Jeff Hubbard made the first strike with a 7-point scoring wave with a well-executed air roll spin. Hubbard drives the nail in the coffin with a final wave score of 6.43 to total his score of 13.43 against 9.7 of Cedric Estel.